If we want to start acknowledging the presence of the low frequency in our lives, we need to get an idea of how the matrix works, which I already told you about in the previous article. The matrix is that video game in which we spend most of our lives thinking that it's all real. The low frequency is exactly the mechanism that makes us believe all these things, letting us live within the video game so that we are not able to remember the true reason we live for. The low frequency is that frequency on which we usually live, made of 1,000 thoughts, 1,000 things to do, and, above all, 1,000 mishaps and unforeseen events that serve no other purpose than filling up every minute of our days so that we can never stop and figure out who we really are. The low frequency is that vibration on which we live, which keeps us trapped into a hectic life during which, even when we have a day off, we will occupy or waste it, rather than enjoying some free time to think about the reason why we were born. Low frequency, however, is much more intelligent than a simple basic vibration. It is a function, a sort of conscience of this planet that keeps us connected to prevent us from finding out our true identities and get out of the low frequency, thus awakening. Our planet has a mind, a very intelligent one, which makes it a full-fledged living creature. Its mind, like ours, has several different faculties that enable it to handle lives on the inside, so to speak. In particular, our planet's mind has two main functions which are very different from each other, but equally important to promptly understand. The first function is nature, and the latter is the low frequency. Even though these functions are two sides of the same coin, namely the mind of our planet, they are two distinct functions and, in some respects, very different from each other. Nature is indeed the most positive thing in this world, while the low frequency is paradoxically the lowest vibration on this planet. In fact, in this article, I will explain the difference between nature and low frequency, as they are both part of our planet's mind, yet they are two very different functions, so different that you will recognize nature as the highest vibration one can find on this planet, and low, on the other hand, as the lowest vibration. On the spiritual path, we will especially focus on analyzing the low frequency and understanding it calmly, as it is a very vast topic, but also very complex to understand if you decide to approach it by halves. Let's start from understanding nature. What we always call the nature is part of the mind of our planet, and we still don't realize how much it gives our lives direction. It's the conscience that guides each and every living being on our planet, including insects, plants, and every single organism, both on dry land and in the sea. It is nature that makes flowers bloom in a specific period. It is nature that pushes bees to pollinate those particular flowers. It is nature that organizes the hierarchy in the families of insects and animals. Everything that works in this world derives from nature, namely the mind of the planet where we live. Nature is not random at all. On the contrary, it is very precise because it knows how to organize itself to find the right harmony to continue life on Earth in a linear and uninterrupted way. So nature is the name we give to that ability of our planet's mind, but we forget the true meaning of this term. In fact, today, we talk about nature almost diminishing it, without realizing that everything that exists on this planet has been perfectly organized, so much that no one in this world could have created such precise and perfect mechanisms that would fit together so spontaneously. When we talk about nature, we diminish it by thinking that it all happened without anyone doing anything, not realizing that all this works because our planet's mind is behind everything, giving direction to plants, animals, and insects. Nature guides every single living being on Earth, and, as a consequence, it directs our lives too. That faculty of our planet's mind, which we call nature, is something exceptional because it manages to carry on life even through great difficulties, conceiving some new mechanisms, such as the birth of a new plant, which will solve the particular problem of the Earth. The other side of the coin, however, is the low frequency, which is associated with nature and takes advantage of this mechanism to control our lives, preventing us from starting to think outside the box and finding out our true identity. Basically, while nature gives our lives direction, low frequency takes control of it. What we have been ignoring for all our lives is that our planet's nature not only guides plants, insects, and animals, for example, creating situations that allow nature to continue its path, even when a piece of the mechanism is missing, but it also guides human lives. What we've always ignored is that nature is not only grass, flowers, and insects, but it's everything that surrounds us. Its conscience directs us humans as much as it does with insects, even though this concept sounds weird to us only because insects create a lair while we create buildings. We have always ignored that the mind of the planet in which we live decides for our lives, imposing its decisions on us and making us live our lives just the way it thinks we should, even if we delude ourselves into thinking that we are the only creators of our destiny. If you stop for a moment and think about it, you will realize that for all your life you've been choosing very little of your destiny ever since you were born. All the people you meet and get to know over the years are not chosen by you, but by chance, just like all the situations and events that happen to you. We know very well that we don't get to choose every single event that happens in our daily life. Yet it never occurred to us that something else could be capable of it, that this could be the one to make these decisions and fill our days with adventures which get us distracted every day, giving us something to think about so that we don't have any time left to stop and reflect on ourselves. If you start looking at it this way, you'll realize that if it is so easy for the planet's mind to organize every single event in nature so that they perfectly match and make life go on, sometimes performing real natural miracles, it is just as easy for the planet to organize every single event of our lives to make it follow the path it has decided for us. While the planet has the ability to create life within it, by exploiting nature, it is also the ability to keep all kinds of minds, human, animal, vegetable, born on this planet tightly linked to it, using the low frequency. As long as we think of nature only as insects and flowers, then everything seems too simple, beautiful, and peaceful. Certainly, if there wasn't nature guiding all the living beings, there wouldn't be any life at all. In fact, it's nature that decides how spiders need to behave to keep on living, and it pushes them the whole time until they reach their circumstances in which they will die. This mechanism works for every single living being. Nature chooses how you are born and how you die, regardless of whether you like it or not. All this would be perfect, except for we are not spiders. We are human beings, born with a conscience that deserves to awake, recognize itself, and help us find out who we really are. As a matter of fact, the mind of the planet has another conscience besides nature, which is the other side of the coin, and exploits its power to bind us to this life and prevent us from choosing how it shall go according to our will. This block is the low frequency. Nature decides how our lives should be, adding details and events that lead our future towards the direction it has chosen for us. The low frequency, in the meantime, takes advantage of nature to add distractions and mishaps into our lives, with the aim of making us focus on these unexpected events so that we don't have any time left to find out our true identities. Low puts us on the same evolutionary path as insects. But we are not insects. Insects lead their lives with the only goal of procreation, and after this act, they might as well die. We were not born just to procreate and then dedicate our whole lives to this purpose only. We have something much more evolved than insects, that is a much older conscience which we've been building life after life. We can procreate, we can love our children more than ourselves, but we were not born just to do this. Meanwhile, we can also choose to find out who we really are. While nature pushes us to take steps which are meant to eventually take us exactly towards the direction that was chosen for us, the low frequency prevents us in any possible way from following in the meantime a path of awakening, which would make us remember who we really are and why we are here. But above all, it would help us find out that we were not born on this planet to live like puppets controlled by someone who is at the top. Low frequency, indeed. We are much more than insects. As a consequence, you understand that the problem is not nature, but the low frequency, which somehow confuses us and makes us believe to be natural itself. If we discovered our true identity, we would realize that we are not here to submit to low frequency, but we were born to pursue much more important objectives. And this is precisely the reason why low does everything in its power to keep us away from awakening, filling our days with anything to do so that we don't think about ourselves, thus preventing us from finding out who we really are. It wants us to believe that we should live just like everyone else, who is asleep and has no other life goals than those imposed by the low frequency itself. Low knows much better than us that if we woke up, the situation would radically change, and we would no longer be under its control, but we would be free. Therefore, it is clear that if it strives so much to keep us sleeping unconsciously, its goal is not only that of making us follow nature, but also making us completely forget who we are and who we have been, so as to prevent us from fulfilling that life mission we came here for. The low frequency keeps us at a low frequency in which we have been sleeping for all our lives, even though we think we are awake. The only way to get out of low, starting to understand how it works, and learning how to trick it, setting ourselves free from its chains, is to raise our vibration to a higher level than where low stands, and where we stand every day as well. By rising our vibration and therefore our tonal, we can see the mechanisms that it uses to keep us low, thus learning to juggle them so that they can no longer touch us. The only way to really raise your tonal is to practice meditation, which allows you to evolve your conscience, remember who you are, evolve your psychic faculties, and thus recognize that anything you don't like about your life can be changed. As in the past, it was decided by the low frequency, but through meditation, you can now decide how it should go. Like The Matrix is that video game in which we are all living without realizing it, the low frequency is the one that wants to keep us stuck into this virtual reality, to make us forget who we really are. The reason why I told you about nature is to help you understand that low uses nature to hide and prevent you from noticing its presence, so that you remain unaware of its influence on your everyday life and continue to sleep forever. Understanding low may seem easy, but it takes time and you don't have to rush, because it's a much broader topic than it seems. Also, getting out of its mechanisms and getting rid of its oppression that tries to keep you asleep will take time, patience, and concentration. This is because it will use your own mind to question your evolution, and if that is not enough, it will exploit people around you to waste your time and prevent you from practicing and raising your vibration, which, if done seriously, would make you become more aware of your life and therefore free from low. In the next lesson about the low frequency, I will explain how it works and how it manages to exploit your own mind as well as people around you, to hinder your awakening. In the meantime, I suggest you to proceed with the articles of the first step and start practicing the first session of meditation. As long as you don't know what it feels like to be free from low, you cannot recognize the great power you'd gain by setting yourself free from its chains. However, starting to practice meditation and raising your vibration, you will realize this and wonder why you haven't tried it before. Be patient and start metabolizing this concept, because it will be very helpful throughout your journey. Remember to leave a comment on this article before turning the page. To learn more about us, you can visit our website dimensionalconsciousnessacademy.com. See you soon.